Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating psychological paradox. While most of our culture is out there celebrating bright, sunny days and those endless summer activities, there's a huge chunk of us who feel, well, inexplicably irritable, unmotivated, and honestly just totally drained by the simple act of walking to the mailbox. But on the flip side, these exact same people often find that the dead quiet of night or the crisp chill of a winter day is when they literally come alive. So today we're going right to the source of this whole phenomenon. We're going to figure out the psychology behind our environmental preferences, why heat and sunlight might actually be sapping your focus, and why the so-called night owl mind absolutely requires a lack of noise to thrive.
Okay, let's dive into this. Is there something actually wrong with you if you just hate summer? Man, this is a source of genuine guilt for so many people. If you've ever felt that familiar sense of dread creeping in as the days get longer and hotter, let me tell you, you are far from alone. A lot of people just assume, oh, I just kind of dislike the heat, right? But the actual reason goes way deeper than that. See, there's this deeply ingrained cultural expectation that summer is the absolute peak of human happiness. So when your internal experience completely clashes with that external expectation, you naturally start to wonder if your brain is just wired wrong. But as we'll see, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your mind simply has a totally different relationship with sensory input.
Section 1. The Summer Pressure Trap. To really grasp how our environments mess with our mental energy, we first have to look at the psychological weight of the season itself. And that starts with some pretty heavy social expectations. Society constantly brands summer as the absolute best time of the year, right? It's completely synonymous with freedom, vacations, endless parties, and high energy. That's the baseline expectation. But the psychological reality for a lot of folks is starkly different. It brings intense fatigue, exhaustion, and just an overwhelming amount of social pressure. When the whole world is telling you that you're supposed to be out there soaking up the sunshine and socializing, the pressure to conform is huge. It creates this intense pressure cooker effect. For people who don't naturally thrive on those high-intensity summer activities, they feel this profound disconnect. The season stops being about freedom, and it becomes way more about the exhausting performance of trying to look energized when, in reality, your mind feels totally depleted.
Let's move to section 2 and see how this builds, how heat drains focus.
So, the mental drain of this season, it's not just in your head. It actually translates into real physiological and cognitive consequences. Summer isn't just physically exhausting, it is incredibly mentally exhausting. Think about it. When the environment is hot, your body is basically working overtime. Just to maintain your normal core temperature in extreme heat, your cardiovascular system has to work significantly harder. It's pumping massive amounts of blood right to your skin just to release that heat. And when your body is burning through that much physical energy just trying to fight off the sweltering weather, your brain definitely feels the deficit. Excessive heat actively reduces our concentration, our patience, and our overall mental performance. And then add to that the constant, nagging physical discomfort. The sweating, the sticky clothes, tossing and turning through those warm nights. It's a perfect recipe for cognitive drain. When you're physically uncomfortable for that long, your patience just thins out and your emotional well-being completely plummets. You aren't just tired. Your brain is literally running out of the resources it needs to focus.
Section 3. Surviving sensory overload.
And this brilliantly illustrates that temperature is really only half of the equation here. We also have to account for the massive spike in environmental noise. And that brings us to sensory overstimulation. This is basically a state where bright sunlight, super crowded places, loud noises, and a huge uptick in social activities completely overwhelm your brain's processing capacity. Now, for some people, a packed sunny beach sounds like an amazing time. But for others, this high level of sensory stimulation is just entirely overwhelming. Look, the human brain has a finite processing capacity. When it's constantly bombarded with bright lights, intense heat, and all that social noise, it just can't process everything efficiently. So instead of feeling energized by this lively environment, these individuals feel completely mentally overloaded. Their cognitive bandwidth is entirely consumed by just trying to process the sheer volume of stimuli happening all around them. Section 4. The Night Owl Advantage.
So the crucial point is this fascinating pivot. Once they understand how those bright, loud environments drain the brain, we completely unlock the psychology of the night owl. Because to truly peak, mental performance requires the right stage. And for a night owl, or someone who deeply prefers the winter, that perfect stage is built on silence. When the harsh glare of the sun is finally gone, when the crowds have packed up and dispersed, and when the heavy pressure of daytime social activity completely vanishes, well, the brain is finally freed up. There are no longer a dozen different sensory inputs or heavy social expectations fighting for your brain's resources. In this quiet, cool isolation, your mental processing power isn't being wasted on regulating your body temperature or filtering out loud background chatter. Instead, all of that precious cognitive energy is funneled directly into concentration, creativity, and deep focus. This quiet world isn't just a casual preference, it's an absolute performance enhancer for this specific psychological profile. Let's think about how these specific environmental shifts impact the mind. Just look at the contrast. During the day, or right in the peak of summer, your stimuli levels are incredibly high, right? It's hot, it's bright, it's loud, and the social pressure is heavily turned up. And the mental impact of that, the brain just becomes totally drained and mentally overloaded trying to manage it all. But then you look at nighttime or the dead of winter, and that stimuli level drops to a low, highly manageable hum. The air is cool, the world gets quiet, and it just naturally allows for solitary focus. The mental impact here is a complete reversal. It allows the individual to feel energized, highly focused, and deeply peaceful. Night owls thrive not because they inherently hate the sun, but because they quite literally require an environment with drastically reduced sensory noise to access their absolute peak mental performance.
Section 5. The power of environment.
Understanding this dynamic leads us to a really deep connection between who you are and where you are, because our personality heavily influences our environmental fit. This is all about honoring how your specific mind works. Some minds just naturally crave calm routines. For these folks, quiet spaces aren't just a nice-to-have luxury, they are absolutely essential for processing information and just making sense of the day. Furthermore, time alone in a cool, low-pressure environment is strictly required for them to effectively recharge their batteries. If you find yourself preferring the slower seasons or the dead of night, it is not because you dislike happiness or joy. No way! It's simply because you've recognized that a quiet, calm environment is the exact match for how your unique personality restores its energy and sharpens its focus.
Now, what's really interesting about this idea is how it summarizes everything we've uncovered today. Sometimes, hating summer isn't about the weather at all, it's about how your mind responds to the world around you. And that is an incredibly validating thought. The friction you feel on a crowded, sweltering July afternoon isn't some flaw in your character. It's simply your mind signaling that its processing capacity is totally overwhelmed by the world's volume, and it's begging for that quiet, cool sanctuary where it knows it can truly operate at its best. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a crucial question to ask yourself. Which season makes you feel most like yourself? Beyond the holidays, beyond the summer vacations, when does your mind truly feel the sharpest? When do you feel most at peace and the most authentic? Recognizing the environment that actually allows you to thrive is the very first step toward reclaiming your mental energy. Keep observing how your mind interacts with the world around you. And I'll see you in the next explainer.